So comprehensive sexuality education. I want you to look at this document here and remember it, okay? Because I'm going to be discussing two documents with you. The older version that the government accepted, and this newer version that we're advised to use. And when I say we, I mean RSE teachers. I am an RSE teacher trainer, fully accredited and licence holder, along with two of my colleagues in Public Child Protection Wales. If you can't beat them, you join them. So comprehensive sexuality education, what is it? Comprehensive sexuality education is a rights-based approach. So as you can see there, on your right, you'll see something called the human rights of children and their sexual and reproductive health. I'm sorry to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, but your children are born with sexual and reproductive rights. Every child in the UK is born with sexual and reproductive rights. For us here in Wales, there is a hierarchy of rights. Parents don't have rights. Children have rights. Children have sexual rights. So why do we, as parents, safeguard us and protect us come into that? So this sex education is a rights-based approach and it's built of three theories. So this theory, sexual from birth, this is what we work closely on. I'm a criminologist, I specialise in child sex abuse and institutional abuse. I know this topic like the back of my hand. So sexual from birth came from the work of Dr. Alfred Kinsey. This is a segment from his book, Sexual Behaviour of the Human Male. This book was produced when Dr. Alfred Kinsey claimed he had researched the population of America, the male population of America, to look for homosexuality. But chapter 5 of this book is a chapter all on the sexuality of the adolescent. Should we have a look at what they mean by adolescent? Here's just one of the charts, okay? You can find a PDF of this chapter on our website. Take a look at it yourself. So as you can see there, we've got age, number of orgasms, time involved. Age, 5 months. Number of orgasms, 3. Time involved, unknown. Age, 11 months. Number of orgasms, 10 in 1 hour. That's what they got. The research for sexual from birth, okay? So you hear things like, we are sexual beings. This is where it comes from. The sexual abuse and torture of children. If you read this chapter, it will explain to you what how the children were responding. They were kicking out. They were had abundance of tears rolling down their cheeks. And that is now portrayed as an orgasm and as pleasure. So the second theory, the gender theory, you know, this is quite controversial in the UK at the moment. Again, this is another theory built of the abuse and mutilation of children. Here you see two boys, well, one looks like a girl. These were twin boys. And David, he had a botched circumcision. And he somehow ended up in Dr. John Money's office. And Dr. John Money told his mother and father, it's fine, it's okay, because gender is a social construct. You can raise him as a girl. And that's what they did. They tried to raise him as a girl. They made him perform sex acts on his brother when he took the role of the female. I'm not lying about this. You can find this stuff yourself, because the truth came out. David came out in the 90s. He was all over chat shows in America. His mother was with him too. And they told the truth of what Sean Money had done to him. But by then, it was too late. Because his research was published as an absolute success. And that's what we see in reference now by academics all around the world today. This looks like this in schools, the gender theory. You see things like the genderbread person and the gender unicorn. All of this, look how colourful that looks, look how friendly it looks. Built off the abuse and mutilation of children. And then we've got a third theory, queer theory. Queer used to be a slur years ago, a homophobic slur. But now it's seen as something hip, hop. you know, something is cool, it's what we all want to be now, we all want to be queer. But again, this is built off the back of very questionable individuals. Michael Foucault, allegedly serious sexual practices around children and animals. Judith Butler, she's the queer theorist in America. On the end, Professor Emma Reynolds from Wales. Professor Emma Reynolds has her tentacles in every single country in the UK and some countries in Europe and some activism pacts for children in America. Let's have a look what these people have to say. So this is a quote from Emma Reynolds. Queering childhood involves not just the queering of sex and gender and sexual binary oppositions such as male, masculinity, female, femininity, heterosexual, homosexual, but generational boundaries, adult and child. When you read Emma's work, she writes things like adult plus child equals okay. She also says that childhood is a myth, and innocence, there's no such thing as childhood innocence. When you've got a grown adult saying these things, you've got to wonder what kind of upbringing they had. You know, it doesn't matter how bad your childhood was, we all still had one. But this person here thinks childhood is a myth. So I'm going to take you into some of these documents now. And as you can see here on the left, this document is very important, okay? This is on our website. This is an overview of 25 countries, and this tells us what the government did, okay? So on page 8 of this document, it tells us that all 4 countries in the UK had adopted comprehensive sexuality education in March 2017 with a view for legislative changes. It also tells us that this document on your right is the document they use for decision making, okay? Again, this document's on our website. I urge you all to read it. If you're not going to read it all, just flick to page 38 and go from there. So what you'll see in this document, the matrix, as you can see there, in the top left-hand corner, 0 to 4, that's the age bracket, okay? And what you'll see, you've got the information fed into the child, the skills the child will acquire from that, and the attitudes the children will develop. So I want to look at just a few things on this. Enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body. Early childhood masturbation. The fact that enjoyment and physical closeness is a normal part of everyone's life. Talk about unpleasure and pleasurable feelings in one's own body. Express own needs, wishes, boundaries, for example, in the context of playing doctor. And apparently, if you teach a child under the age of 4 this stuff, they will have a positive attitude towards others and they will have respect for others. That's age 0 to 4. Age 4 to 6, pretty much the same thing. Enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body, early childhood masturbation. The meaning of and expression of sexuality, appropriate sexual language, sexual feelings, closeness, enjoyment, excitement. Use sexual language in a non-offensive way. Talk about sexual matters. And apparently the children will then have a positive body image and respect for others. Now this year, this is the first document I showed you, it's a UNESCO document. So I call this Younger Funkier Brother, okay? Younger Funkier Brother. This is what they brought in because the first document, you can see what's going on. So this one is a little easier on the eye. But as you can see there, clearly, people can show love for each other through touching and intimacy. Age 5 to 8, okay? Age 6 to 9, back to the original document, the document that all 4 countries accepted. Love, being in love, sex in the media, enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body, masturbation, stimulation, appropriate sexual language, use sexual language in a non-offensive way, and apparently they will gain an understanding of acceptable sex, mutually consensual, voluntary, age-appropriate, context-appropriate and self-respecting. That is age 6 to 9. And now we go 9 to 12. It doesn't matter which document you look at, if you're looking at this one or the newer one, what you will find is as children reach age 9, they need to consider whether they are ready for sexual intercourse or not. That's from age 9, so we'll have a quick look at this as well. First, sexual experience. Sexual behaviour of young people. Pleasure, masturbation, orgasms. I don't think I need to go on, do I? I don't, do I? You know, this is what we're dealing with. But this is what decision makers accepted when they adopted comprehensive sexuality education with the view for legislative changes. Very important, a view for legislative changes. Back to the UNESCO document, you can see exactly the same thing is happening here, okay? Put my glasses up. So exactly the same thing's happening here. Age 9 to 12, they're talking about pregnancy, common signs of pregnancy. But if you're dealing with a 9 to 12-year-old that's looking at signs of pregnancy, you're looking at the police. That's who you should be dealing with, is the police. Not an educational document, okay? Nothing else other than the police. Again, as you can see there, age 9 to 12, human beings are born with the capacity to enjoy their sexuality throughout their life. Again, sexual from birth, sexual beings. So now we've just brushed through that. I'm not going to go into any lesson content with you. I want to talk specifically about the pushback. Okay, we can talk about this all day long. I'm a bit desensitized to it now, and I think that's quite sick, to be honest. You know, I'm a female up here talking about these sexual acts in the context of children. So what have we done? We've gone down a democratic process. This was a preventative campaign. We tried to stop the Welsh Government bringing it in, but we wasn't very successful on that front, because as you all know, and as we've heard a few times today, democracy does not exist in this country. Okay? Democracy is a myth. But I said from day one, we will take them to court. And everyone laughed at me. Everyone laughed. I even had one politician sending me an email saying, you're going to need more than that. You're going to need more people than that. I already had 400 in the group before I emailed anyway. So we went to the judicial process. We did not have a penny in the bank, but we did not care. There was 58 people willing to go into court, and what we did was, we went through them all. They own a house, you're not going in. You got a job, you're not going in. You got assets, you're not going in. We chose the 5 poorest people. I fell in the bracket of the poorest people, because they can't take what you haven't got. So we went into court, and we challenged them on parental rights. You're never going to fight this agenda in a single case, okay? So we went in specifically on parental rights. We wanted to keep an opt-out on this education, some control, some opportunity to safeguard. But the Welsh Government and their silver-tongued barristers successfully argued that parental rights do not exist. Parental rights in education are not a thing. And if they was, they would be absolutely minute anyway. So you may not have heard about this case, which should have been the most high profile in the UK. But the reason why you did not hear about it is because they all adopted comprehensive sexuality education with a view for legislative changes. They don't want the rest of the UK to know about these legislative changes. We have the legislation, everyone else had the lesson content. But we proved the government were liars in court. We proved that nothing we put out was misinformation. We simply lost that argument on parental rights. The first case cost us £17,000, and the second case cost us, I think, it was in excess of £90,000. The government wanted £50,000 off as costs. So not only are they being paid by government, by taxpayers anyway, they want to get paid twice. They want to take money off us, but we didn't have it. You know, we were fundraising, we didn't have that money. So they started sending emails. They wanted to remove our assets, which for us, the poorest, meant our sofa, our TV, our coffee table. you know? They wanted to remove our assets. And this information's on our website. You can access it anyway. But we did get the money, and we did pay them off. And then we were going to take them back to court under an appeal. That appeal was refused, because it's not in the public interest. This, ladies and gentlemen, is not in the public interest. But we created case law, okay? Every case has case law. Win or lose, you've got some quotes from the judge. What that judge did, she put blame and responsibility on the head teacher. The head teacher doesn't even know that the responsibility is on them. They have no clue. The head teachers are told that you just can't remove your children from this stuff anyway, period. When the legislation and the case law says it's the responsibility of the head teacher. The High Court also reinforced the fact that this needs to be developmentally appropriate. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no such tool to define the developmental appropriateness in each child. We know when they're ready for the next book in reading because they read the one before it. We know when they're ready for the next task in maths because they completed the one before it. With this, there is no way of foreseeing if this is appropriate or not. So that is a tool that you can use to fight back. Where is this assessment? Is this developmentally appropriate? So that's what we've got from our case law, and that's what we're doing now. We're working with parents on that front. Education and training has been a big thing for us as well. Not only have we been educating the country, we've been training the country. We've had additional training ourselves. Like I said, 3 of us now are fully accredited RSE teacher trainers. If you can't beat them, you join them. We've also done something else. We've developed the first criminological preventative approach to sexual safeguarding in the UK. It's the first of its kind. Unlike the rest of the education establishment out there and these RSE organisations, our training comes with over 200 points of academic reference. The workbook alone has 79 points of academic reference. And we have piloted this in our local communities. We've also sent a proposal off to prisons because we're going to take it in there. Why are we taking it in prisons? Because it's simple, ladies and gentlemen. The only way you can properly sexually safeguard a child is by understanding the mind of a perpetrator. Only they know how they groom. Only they know the tactics that they use. So we need to use their mind to prevent and protect it happening to our children. Not only are we taking a preventative approach, by taking it into the prisons this way, we will then be eligible for funding pots that other organisations are not. So the Prison Reform Trust, the Prison Education Trust. So we're opening doors there, we're opening avenues there. So we do have projects on the go. We understand a lot of people lack this education, and we know this is vitally important for everyone. So we've written it for professionals, but we are delivering it to the community for free. Parent empowerment. We are working with parents day in, day out. We are creating cases. We've got educational tribunals. We have trained parents on advocacy, rights and representation. We go into meetings with parents, but we have to go in disguise because they won't have me in the schools. But if I put my hair back and take off my PCP clothes, I do manage to get in. And we've had some successes there as well. So even though we've gone into these meetings and at the end they realise who we are, they go white, we have had some successes. We have successfully removed some lesson content from classrooms and schools, which has then safeguarded the entire year group. So even though these cases... So even though these cases take a long time, there is hard work, there's a lot of letter tennis going on, this parental empowerment is working. Not all the teachers know what's going on. They're told to deliver this stuff. They have no idea. They got a degree in history, maths, geography or whatever. They don't know this stuff is wrong until you actually sit down with them and explain it. And we've got one school in particular who are very interested in our training. So considering we were the demons, We now have some schools eating out of the palm of our hands, which is fantastic. So we're turning their playground into our playground. We are not scared. We are not scared of anyone who has bad, unhealthy ideas around our children. And that's why we've done this education and training. That's why we are licence holders in RSC. And that's why we've just registered limited by guarantee. We've registered limited by guarantee to show you guys that we're not after money. The directors will never get paid. We are limited by guarantee to show them we're here, we stay in here, we go in absolutely nowhere. And like I said, we will be turning their playground into our playground. And then we have direct action. We have direct action. Now, if I had the numbers, if I had the influence, and if I had the control, I would have everybody in Cardiff and that city shut down on a Monday. And that city would stay shut until we got some answers. Because that's what direct action is. Direct action is going to the source. Direct action is going to where the problem is. And that's what we've been doing. And I'll show you one example of this direct action now, something we've been very successful at. What happened, Daryl? Is the battery gone? There we go. Does anyone know this one here, Peter Tatchell? So Peter Tatchell actively campaigned to remove parental opt-out from our sex education. Peter Tatchell's written articles for the Paedophile Information Exchange. Peter Tatchell thinks it's okay to have sex with 9-year-old boys, and I quote, it could possibly be harmless. Well, Peter Tatchell tried to come to Abergavenny last year. He tried to, it was something to do with the BBC. We got wind that he was coming. So he went straight for direct action. No trouble, we just want to go down, we want to take our PA system, and we want to play his speeches through our PA system. By the time we got there, the event was cancelled. Peter Tatchell then took to Twitter, and he said, in 30 years, I have never been cancelled. Until he tried to come to Wales.
Yay! Come play with the Welsh.
So not only did he write that on Twitter, he then deleted it. So we owned him twice. So that's what direct action does. It would be great to have a big numbers, massive numbers. Like I said, if I had my way, Cardiff would be at a standstill. They'd still be feeling it 3 weeks later, you know? But that's what we're about. We like to go down there on the weekdays and we like to hold things up. But we also like to go around the country. We're building coalitions. We've got a 17-group coalition in the UK. We've also joined an international coalition. Because as you've just seen, these documents, comprehensive sexuality education, it comes from the World Health Organization and UNESCO. So a week on Monday, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to Washington, D.C. We have groups from Wales, England, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Texas, Canada, different states of America. We have joined forces. We are going to the World Health Organization conference, and we're going to hand deliver our Universal Declaration of Childhood. They did not ask our permission to sexualize our children. I do not seek permission to be a stakeholder in my children's well-being, and that's the way we move forward. After the World Health Organization conference, we will be in the White House, because we will be meeting congressmen, is that what they call it there? We're going to be meeting legislators, because we joined forces with women from the Reisman Institute to revive a bill which will revoke all of the work, all of the education, and all of the legislation that was influenced by Dr. Alfred Kinsey. So the ladies out there have already successfully managed to revoke tax taxpayer funding from the Kinsey Institute. And that's how we move forward. We go straight into the belly of the beast. But then there's UNESCO. And we did try to register as an NGO with UNESCO for 2026. But we missed the boat, we missed the deadline. But we will be registered for 2027. And before 2025 is up, ladies and gentlemen, we will be in Paris. And we will be addressing UNESCO as well. But the thing is, this stuff is important, yes, going to the source is important. Because the thing is, we complain in here, you know, they don't care. They're still printing their documents, they're still carrying on. So we're going to go to the source. And the way I see it is, you know, they can ignore our emails all day long, but their systems cannot ignore the pings coming from all across the world. When they start feeling those pings and seeing those pings, they will know we are coming. But we do not stop, and we do not focus up there. We have to attack up there, yes. But our work is more important on the ground. Because we are the children's only line of defence. We can't afford to wait for some flash politician to give a speech in Parliament. We cannot wait for a policy change. Children cannot wait to be safeguarded. And that's why we all come together. We are producing template letters, not just for Wales, we've got them for England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales now. We've got template letters against the lockdowns, we've got template letters against the RSC. We are joining forces. But we can only do it if we pull together. Our children deserve a childhood. Our children are innocent. And unless we pull together, unless we hit this in every single corner of this country, at every single level, our children are not going to be safe. So ladies and gentlemen, let's make this agenda be the agenda that breaks the camel's back. Okay, this has to be the one that breaks the camel's back. If the children are not protected, then what's this world going to look like in 10 years' time? What is a world without innocence? A world without innocence is not a world I want to live in. A world without innocence is not a world for any of us to live in. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all concerned about what's going on in the world right now. But while we're all concerned about what's going on in the world right now, who's watching the children? They at the top are watching the children. They're keeping us busy at the bottom, keeping us busy in the middle, but then at the top, our children are their currency. Are they going to have a payday? No, they are not. The payday will be ours. And that's all I've got to say, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to our website. And if you can support us in any way at all, guys, we have no funding whatsoever. If you can support us in any way at all, please do, even if you can just give us 50 pence a month. That 50 pence a month gets us at conferences. That 50 pence a month gets us to Washington, DC. That 50 pence a month is going to get us to Paris to address UNESCO. Thank you all very much, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Tim. And thank you for all you're doing to stand up for the rights of children, to protect children. It's so vital, and it's something that we all will get behind.